Alright, I have finally returned with another guide, which I know is what most of you are here for. So today we are taking it back old school. We're going to talk about PvP basics. Now, I typically cover more advanced tips that I can think of to help you guys out, but today I'm going to talk about the core things you need to understand about Destiny that makes it different from other shooters. Now, if you've been playing, you likely know some of this, but honestly, just taking a look at it big picture and sort of trying to fully understand it may actually be beneficial for you. So even if you've been playing for a while, if you're still trying to improve at PvP, this video will likely be helpful for you. The main focus is going to be the newer players who are coming for this DLC. So if you're new to PvP and you're still trying to improve, this is definitely a good video for you. So let's hop into the tips. Okay, the first thing you should know if you come from other shooters to Destiny 2 is that this game is not balanced. Like, yeah, no game is balanced completely, but this game is very much unbalanced. What makes Destiny 2 different from other shooters is I would say that this game doesn't even attempt to be balanced. Like most games, they try to be balanced and it's sort of a constant like struggle to get there, tuning multiple things back and forth over the course of the game's lifespan. Destiny 2, they don't even really aim to be balanced, right? They don't want the game to be balanced, they just want it to be different, right? So something will be strong and they know it's strong, they leave it there, and then instead of sort of trying to balance around it, they just make something else strong to sort of keep it fresh, I guess, I think is their mindset, because the game it hasn't been balanced in its entirety we're getting close to 10 years. It's never been in a balanced state, so I don't think they attempt to make it balanced. That's the only logical thing, which honestly, basically this is a key point for people who have been playing for a while as well. The sooner you can just come to terms with that, the better. It'll save yourself a lot of frustration. So yeah, if you're new to the game and you're sort of dying to something on repeat, you might not even understand how it works and you think it's OP, it very likely could be OP. Not everything is completely broken in the game. Some stuff does have counters, but some stuff is just unbalanced. So if you're newer to the game, try to understand that. And then also, if you've been playing for a while, you need to just come to terms with the fact that the game's unbalanced. Sometimes you'll get cheesed, and that's just Destiny, right? There's nothing you could really do about it. Think about like Stasis Warlock. You just get frozen and you're dead. I mean, that's just Destiny, right? Not balanced, but the sooner you can sort of come to terms with that, the better. The next thing to understand is that this game has very high aim assist. Controller, mouse and keyboard, Wii nunchuck, guitar hero drum, whatever input you use, Destiny is extremely forgiving. So it is much easier to hit your shots in this game compared to any other game. Most people say this with sort of a negative connotation, but most people also say, oh, I don't know, man, just something about the gunplay in Destiny is so good, so clean. Like, yeah, it's the aim assist. So what this means is that good players are not going to miss. There is less skill gap in this game, sort of like aim wise, than most shooters will have. If me and another average player peek each other, we're basically both going to hit our optimal time to kill 9 out of 10 times. The difference between that will basically become sort of movement, getting the first shot off, positioning, or sometimes even just flinch. There is an RNG element with flinch, but basically you need to understand, if you're newer to this game or still trying to improve, that good players are not going to miss. You will get to that point as well. You just need practice and time. But yeah, just know that in general, compared to other shooters, people are going to miss a lot less. There's a lot of aim assist in Destiny 2. Next up is a big one, the radar. Now, this applies in two different ways. For newer PvP players, yes, you need to watch your radar. It is crazy strong in this game. It is the #1 informational tool to know where the enemy is, and that is extremely important. Basically, you need to know at all times where people are because of your radar, and if you're not looking at it, you're at a huge disadvantage because your enemy definitely is. All good players will be looking at their radar at all times, so if you're not using it, basically you're fighting someone who knows where you are, but you don't know where they are. So you're basically going to lose almost every fight if you're not watching your radar. Now, if you are a more seasoned player, yeah, you know there's a radar, but do you really? I find this is one of the biggest skill gaps in the game, like unironically. You need to be obsessively looking at your radar. I mean, like obsessively. I'd say 80% of my time in game in a match is probably spent looking at the radar. if I am not shooting someone in that moment, I'm pretty much looking at the radar until I get a ping to see where they are, and then I'm gonna start looking at the screen. Like, I am looking at the radar like 80% of the time, like I said. So this is honestly the #1 thing when it comes to like 1vx scenarios, like 1v3, 1v2, whatever. Honestly, I can make a whole video about that as well, but so I'm not gonna go way into it. But honestly, I believe radar hyper awareness is one of the main skill gaps in this game. I think it's the difference between good players and great players. Like, good players watch their radar and they use it well, but great players know where every enemy is around them at all times, and they can get a kill immediately and turn and get a second right away. Like, they know where everyone is. Even if you have a split second, like let's say you get a shotgun kill, you're reloading, you should be looking at your radar to see where the next guy is. Like, at all times, you need to know where everyone is. If they're in your radar range, you should know they're there. You should never have people sneak up on you. It's very hard to flank in this game because of the radar. You need to be watching it at all times. Another thing unique to Destiny is the way range works. I have talked about this many times, but here's your yearly reminder that I do not like the range in this game. I personally feel that this is the very core issue with PvP in Destiny 2. Like, yes, there are many issues, but I feel the range system is the very like fundamental part of PvP that prevents balance from happening. Now, what do I mean by this if you haven't watched my channel? Well, if you've played a game like Call of Duty, for example, right? Many of us have probably played that. Two of the most used guns are ARs and SMGs, right? SMGs are better up close and ARs are better at range. Now, let's say you are just playing some team deathmatch, right? The good old days, you're stomping Christmas noobs, right? And you have an AR on. You run into a room and, oh no, there's a guy with an SMG, but you saw him a little faster, you reacted faster than him, and maybe he missed a bullet or something, right? You can still kill him. Even though you are at a disadvantage, you can still get the kill. Your AR is worse than his SMG in that scenario, but you're still able to win, and vice versa, right? For pretty long range, the SMGs can sometimes shoot down lanes. It might take a few extra bullets. The recoil is kind of hard, but it's doable. Like, if the guy's not even looking at you, you could SMG him down a lane. Now, Destiny is not like that. If you run into that room with an AR versus an SMG in Destiny, you are losing 10,000 out of 10,000 times. At range, you are winning 10,000 out of 10,000 times. There is no duel. There's no first person to react will win. If you miss a bullet, you lose. Like, there's none of that. That fight was determined in orbit when you selected your loadout. Now, I heard like, oh, the skill gap is playing the range. Okay, so how is that fun? Like, that's what we want our skill gap to be. Our skill gap is backing up from everyone or pushing people. Anyway, that's what I don't like about this game, but the takeaway is going to be that you need to play in your weapon's range. If you have a weapon for close range and you fighting somebody and you are fighting someone who has a long range weapon, if you are in close range, barring you miss half your clip, it's a free kill. There's nothing they can do. The TTKs are they're not balanced. There's a few exceptions to this, but in general, if you have a long range weapon, you need to be in long range, and you will win all your fights at long range unless they also have a long range weapon, and vice versa, right? So basically, stick to your range. You need to learn what range your weapon is. That is the most important part. You can win many fights in this game just by being in your weapon's range. Honestly, if you mismatch their range, like you have a close range weapon, you get in close range and they don't have one, you're gonna win. There's nothing they can do. It's just, like I said, I think it's the core issue, but that's how the game works. So yeah, play your weapon's range. Okay, my final advice for understanding the core of PvP inside of Destiny is about the weapons. Okay, so this is for new players as well as PvE mains. There are very few guns that are good in both PvE and PvP. So in general, if you have an absolutely goated PvE weapon, right? You love this, like, bro, this thing mows down the thralls like none other, right? The Smallens stand no chance when you wield your favorite weapon. Yeah, chances are you should not be using that in the Crucible. Obviously, there are some exceptions, but in general, guns or perks are typically made for PvP or PvE. Honestly, they rarely ever cross over and are just good for both. So all of this to say, You need to learn what weapons or perks are actually good in PvP. Otherwise, you are putting yourself at a huge disadvantage. I can't tell you how many trials matches I've loaded into against teams. It looked like they misclicked trying to go into a strike. So yeah, learn what perks are good for PvP and what guns are good for PvP and focus on using those. And you want to have separate guns. This also applies to builds. You want to have separate guns and builds for PvE from PvP. And yeah, that's going to do it for my PvP basics. I think my advice would be, if you're new to PvP in Destiny, definitely focus on one or two of these things for a while and maybe come back and do the rest. Take it slow. If you're more experienced in PvP but still looking to improve, I have tons of videos up to check out. But also make sure you actually think through all of these tips all the way and make sure you are fully implementing them. Like the radar especially is, I think, the main tip in this video that I would want like more experienced players to focus on. A lot of people, I think, don't use it as much as they should, even if they've been playing for a long time. So yeah, anyway, that's going to do it for this video here. I hope you guys at least learned something. Let me know what you found the most helpful down below. But yeah, I think these are great core things to kind of focus on inside the Crucible. So as always, I am Awake, and I'll see you guys next time.